All right, it is the Football Friday show presented by our friends over at SuperBook Sports. I'm Elo Piro. Follow me on social media at Media by AP, and I'm joined by the man known as Unit behind the scenes over at the grand mothership that is the SuperBook in Nevada. John Hoglund, kind enough to give me a few minutes of his time as we get ready for the start of the NFL season, week one, and away we go, my friend. I mean, you got to be just excited to get football back on the horizon. I know you like the fighting, baseball, basketball, all that other stuff, but there's nothing quite like betting on the football games.
Oh yeah, all those other sports are just to pass the time to get the football season. They're fun, but I'm ready for it to get started. It's a busy week. I know it's going to be real hectic all the way up until Sunday, but once those games start, I'm going to sit back, relax, and enjoy them. We got a little tease with it a little bit last week on Saturday with college football. I was lucky enough to be in Knoxville, see
Nice.
my alma mater get blown out and not cover 35 points. Lose by 49 to Tennessee. The atmosphere there was crazy. It was nice to get that little taste, but I'm ready for the NFL.
Yeah, a little SEC football action, can't complain. I ended up laying, 45 points with Alabama against Utah State in week one of college football. So that came
those
through
are
for me.
attractive spreads, but they don't always work out. I think that Michigan one this week too is another one.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, the Colorado college teams didn't do all that well. You know, CU went in the bed against TCU and CSU against Michigan, as you alluded to. That was
you got Air Force though. You got Air Force.
That is true, and I will lay 20 points or whatever the line is with Air Force this weekend against
17.5. I think right now.
I'm laying the points, man. CU is in a. I don't even know where CU is at the time, but all right. So you work for SuperBook. You've been there, a couple years now?
Yes, sir. Coming up on 2 years right now. So moved out here from the Midwest, been enjoying Vegas, and there's no better job than one that's involved in sports betting in the desert.
I definitely agree. That's so crazy, dude. Like, I remember just like walking through the SuperBook for the first time, meeting you with my buddy Chase, and just like, it's crazy, dude. Like, you guys as a brand have grown, you've grown, like, you know, the show is growing. So that is cool to see. And, you know, there's no better time for SuperBook betting, all that kind of stuff than football season. And let's see, you started in Colorado and New Jersey. Now you're in Tennessee, Arizona, any other states that I'm missing?
That's it for right now. We've got, of course, we've been here in Nevada forever, and then we went to Colorado, then New Jersey shortly after, Arizona. Now we're in Tennessee, and coming up soon, Iowa, hopefully very soon.
That's a fun one. A little bit close to your neck of the woods there in the Midwest.
Oh, yeah. We got some passionate fans out there. Luckily, a few Chicago fans out there in Iowa.
So if you're in any of those states, be sure to get your bets in with SuperBook Sports. I'm obviously based in Colorado. I can also take a trip up to the Lodge Casino if you guys want to check out the brick and mortar location. Big fan of the Westgate property out there as well in Las Vegas. It's the mothership, the OG SuperBook, I guess you could say, out there in Nevada. So if you're looking to enhance your sports betting experience, look no further than our friends over at SuperBook, whether it's online with the mobile apps or at the Lodge Casino here in Colorado or the mothership out there in Las Vegas. But all right, my man, here we are. Week one is upon us. We got the Thursday night football game on tap, and, you know, the floodgates are about to open. You mentioned college football, rocking and rolling week 0, week 1 done there. You know, but when it's all said and done, come Monday evening, Tuesday morning, I mean, we're going to have a full slate of NFL games that have been played out. Before we take a look at the week 1 matchups in particular, though, I'm curious as to where the book stands as a whole with some of the Super Bowl kind of odds, maybe some liability, things along those lines. Everyone loves the Buffalo Bills, of course, but what's going on behind the scenes with SuperBook in regards to some Super Bowl betting?
Yeah, as far as the percent of dollars, the Bills are, of course, number 1, Chiefs number 2, Chargers 3. We've got the Titans 4, and then the Raiders 5. We've got a huge fan base of Raiders fans out here, so that takes up a lot of that. But they've made some massive improvements. So one thing I thought was interesting was the percentage of tickets. For us, out of the top 5, all 4 of them are AFC West teams. We've got the Raiders have the highest percentage, followed by the Bills, Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos. So all of those AFC West teams in the top 5, that's pretty special. I don't know if I've ever seen a better division than that. I'm sure a lot of your listeners here are AFC West fans, and they're going to be following all those games.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, too, because, you know, the Broncos, since they won Super Bowl 50, have kind of been, dare I say, irrelevant, you know, in the national NFL landscape. And, like, I was at training camp for a majority of the practices. Like, there is a complete breath of fresh air, you know, around the Denver Broncos. Obviously, new head coach, Russell Wilson, coming to town, also a new ownership group. So, you know, it's exciting. And the funny thing about that division is, John, like, you could have 4 double-digit win teams. Like, it's that stacked. And it's almost like, what is it? Chargers, Raiders play week 1. Obviously, Russ going back to Seattle as well. What's going to happen with Kansas City? But, like, anytime that those teams in that division play, I mean, that's like must-watch TV.
Oh, they're going to beat up on each other all season long. It's and you mentioned the Broncos, just like that. They go from bottom of the division to potentially could win the division. That's interesting. As I mentioned, Super Bowl bets that we're getting, we took a lot on the Titans and the Steelers, and most of that was before Russell Wilson was on the move. It was people trying to forecast, maybe thinking that Russ or somebody else would end up going to those teams. So the wagering on those teams has cooled off since then, but that's what's built the liability on those teams.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think you guys will be all right in that department. Obviously, we'll see what happens once the games get being played and whatnot. But that's reminiscent of, like, I remember, I don't know what it was like for you guys, but the rumors last year, 2 years ago during the draft with Aaron Rodgers. Like, I knew a bunch of people that were like betting the Broncos to win the Super Bowl, like thinking that they were going to trade for Aaron Rodgers on the night of the draft. Obviously that didn't end up happening, but maybe a similar kind of thought.
I would have liked that. I'd like to get Aaron Rodgers out of the NFC North as a Bears fan.
I'm sure. Oh, well, before we get into some, games here, talk to me about your Bears, man. Justin Fields, you got a new head coach,
Yeah, I think it's an improvement over last year. I'm not delusional enough to say that they're good, but all the chatter of them being the worst team, I've seen a ton of people saying, the Bears are going to have the worst record, they're going to have the first pick. I don't believe that's the case. I think Fields he'll mesh well with Luke Getsy, but I don't think it'll be enough to make the playoffs. But I think they'll be fun to watch some games and maybe make some people some money betting them as a dog.
Well, there's plenty of home dogs in week 1. We'll dive into that here in just a moment. But I'm curious, like you mentioned how Buffalo is like a pretty big liability for you guys at the book. It just seems like, the way that they lost to Kansas City in the playoffs last year kind of left a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths. Like, obviously, that Josh Allen's a year older, a year wiser. They've got the head coach. They bring in Von Miller. It seems like on paper, it makes sense why the Bills are the odds-on favorite in taking in that much action. A little power outage. But
yeah, my lights time off if I don't stand up for a little while.
Look at you. But I think like the Bills, like I guess obviously the book has to agree with where they're priced at, right? But like it's crazy to see so much love for a team that kind of flamed out the way in which they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, on paper and just seeing them, last year, some say lost by a coin toss and ended up having that rule change. But one thing that scares me with the Bills is how they use Josh Allen. Sometimes they use him as their running back, when he doesn't run like most quarterbacks. Sometimes they'll just do draws right up the middle. And that scares me a little bit as potentially the best quarterback in the NFL doing something like that. If he goes down, their whole season's over, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we'll talk some MVP here in a second as well. But looking at the odds right now on SuperBook Sports to win the upcoming Super Bowl, Buffalo is the leader of the pack at 6-1, followed by Tampa at 7-1, Green Bay 10-1, along with Kansas City, Chargers, Rams, all at 10-1 as well. And then it drops off a little bit. You got Baltimore 16-1, San Francisco 16-1, and Cincinnati at 20-1. I will say this. I like the number on Baltimore. I'm very bullish on Baltimore this year. But certainly some interesting odds to keep an eye on. What do you make as a whole of Tampa, though? I'm curious, like, what your opinion is of, like, Tom Brady taking some time off in training camp, like a little mystique around that team this year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially with some of the offensive line issues. But I've come to learn that you can't doubt Tom Brady or any team that Tom Brady's on. That's come to burn me a few times. So I'm not going to start now. I'm not going to doubt them. I could definitely see them going all the way. And we've taken some pretty big, 5-figure wagers on them, not only to win the NFC, but to win the Super Bowl.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's never a bad bet to back Brady. I do wonder, like, at some point, what's going to happen and, some interesting circumstances this offseason as well. So some Super Bowl conversation off the bat. Obviously, it's a fun time to get some futures bets in. If people are unfamiliar with the SuperBook brand, like I got our magazines around the office everywhere. They're all around town. Like, what are some of the sign-up opportunities, some of the bonuses to kind of stretch your dollar that you guys are offering?
Oh, yeah, definitely worth it. I mean, definitely shop around, and more times than not, we've got a better price on certain things. But right now, for new users in Colorado, we're giving get up to $1,000 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager in the same day. You can't beat that, especially during the NFL season, because you're going to be wagering. We've got a variety of other great promotions in a variety of sports. MLB, we've even got one for the UFC card this weekend. That's going to be great. A few other football ones coming on the horizon, and more in the works. But also on Wednesdays recently, we've been doing on social media at SuperBook Sports. We've been doing it's called Name Your Boost. So we've been asking users to give their suggestions. What do they want to see boosted on the site? And, our guys in the back room have been weeding through them, picking some out. And we got a good amount of them up on the site now. And we'll be doing that every Wednesday, hopefully.
Yeah, that's definitely a fun one. I'll have to keep my eye on that. I know I've done a couple of them with you guys in the past, but for football season, I feel like you can really have some fun with that.
Oh, yeah. That's why we put it on pause for a little bit, because we were getting the same boring baseball props, and all there was baseball and some WNBA games. But so we paused it for a little while, brought it back for football, and it was killer week one.
Yeah, I could imagine. And look, I love baseball. I love basketball. I love hockey. But like, talk to me a little bit about just betting football and obviously working for SuperBook. Like, I've been out there for a couple of games. I've seen Thursday night games out there. I've seen Sunday afternoon, evening games as whole. I mean, it just seems like Vegas and sports betting in general really gravitates towards national NFL football as well as college football.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, football is king. You hear that all the time. But yeah, Sundays here are completely electric. If you've never been here, you definitely got to get out. As you mentioned, it's crazy. So most of the time I sit in the office, and I can hear the cheers just roaring out from out there. I try to stay out of all that chaos, but it's definitely a great atmosphere that you're going to have to experience.
Right. No, I mean, I could give you a ringing endorsement if I want to. The food selection, the breakfast burrito. If you're there on the weekends, you grab one of those breakfast burritos that they make at the little bar and grill back there. They do a fantastic job.
Cauliflower pizza too. Can't go wrong with that.
Dude, I think cauliflower crust sometimes is better than regular crust. Like, it's like the weirdest thing. Like the last year and a half I've gotten into that. That's probably interesting for you, someone coming with some of that deep dish takes.
I'm not a huge deep dish guy, and coming from
Really?
Chicago, I'm more of a tavern style guy.
Ooh, I
the squares smaller. That's deep dish is more of a tourist thing. I'll do it every once in a while. Back when I moved there.
That makes sense. Look at you, like a tried and true local. But okay, you mentioned how there's some liability on teams like Tennessee, Pittsburgh. I'm assuming you guys are probably somewhat liable on Buffalo as well, just knowing how the public is all over them. Oh, any other teams that maybe you guys have some liability out there, or that maybe you're getting some big bets, interesting bets on?
I know the Buccaneers. We had them, I think, as high as 40-1 when Tom Brady suddenly retired, and then he unretired, and now they're up there at the top of the board as one of the favorites. So a lot of people got lucky enough to get the Buccaneers at a great price, and that's caused some liability of a really good contender. But definitely the Buccaneers are one that sticks out.
I could imagine. What about on the MVP circuit? I see Josh Allen 7-1, Mahomes 7-1, Herbert 8-1, Rodgers. I saw somewhere that like Rodgers across the board in the sports betting world like isn't getting a ton of love to go for a three-peat, which I'm not.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are definitely scared of the voter recency bias of it. They don't want to maybe give him a third MVP in a row. So I know Mahomes has been a popular bet. I know Josh Allen's been a popular bet. And then I've seen a few people throw a few bucks on a non-quarterback, perhaps.
Really?
Derrick Henry, Cooper Kupp. I don't see that ever happening, especially the way the NFL is now. And I think Adrian Peterson was the last one, but I would be very surprised if we saw something like that. But I guess it doesn't hurt to throw a few bucks on it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, we see like that's what the offensive player of the year award is for, right? Like if Jonathan Taylor isn't going to win MVP after what he did last year, like, odds are it's probably going to go to a quarterback, right? So that's interesting. I do want to throw it out there. Russell Wilson, 12-1, man. I mean, as someone who lives here in Colorado, plenty of Broncos fans around me that work here at the office as well. I think he's the real deal. Being out there at training camp as well, just seeing the way that he can kind of command the offense, the relationship with his players. I mean, you have Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, high praise, all that kind of stuff. Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon in the backfield. I'm excited for the Broncos in general, whether you're looking at Super Bowl odds, but I also like Russell Wilson, MVP 12-1. I'm excited to watch Russ cook this year.
Yeah, I've been real high on Russell Wilson. I know talking with my friends, whenever I mention Russ to win MVP, they'll give me the joke that Carson Wentz has gotten MVP votes and Russell Wilson hasn't. I don't know if that has much to do with him this season, but I'm excited to see him playing blue and orange starting Monday against his former team.
Yeah, it'll be good, man. And I saw that's a pretty lopsided matchup, I would imagine, from the books' perspective.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of action. I know that one. I think opened Broncos -3.5. Of course, we opened
Yep.
those real early in May, and they're up that whole time, and a lot changes from then and now. And I think we're sitting at Broncos -6.5 right now.
Yeah, quite a bit of line movement on that front. But all right, let's transition here, talking some week one lines. Before we do that, though, anything crazy going on at Superbook from a futures perspective you want to let the listener know about?
Well, we actually this week, interesting enough, I saw a bet come in on the Giants, $1,000 at 200 to 1 to win the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I don't know where that came from, but it must be some hype around the Giants, and also another $3,000 at plus 985 to win the NFC East. Um, I don't know if those are worth throwing a few bucks on, but
I
that
don't know.
must be either a Giants fan or someone who is high on them. We've also taken just a few days ago Raiders to miss the playoffs, $31,000, and that was at -155. Personally, I think the Raiders are going to have a good season, but that'll have a pretty payout if they miss the playoffs.
Over 30 G's on the Raiders in the best division, who are a good team that made the playoffs last year with all that adversity to not make the playoffs. That's an
A team
interesting
that's
bet.
improved too. Adding
Yeah.
Devontae Adams, reuniting
Mhm.
him with Derek Carr. I think it's going to be a huge year for Waller, and of course that opens up Renfro when the defense is going to have to be focusing on Devontae Adams, who's arguably the best receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one. I can't wait to watch these games, man. I guess the question mark with them is McDaniels, right? Like, has he
Yeah,
learned enough
you know
from,
that. Yeah.
you know, I guess we'll find out, but I don't think that McDaniels, like, I wouldn't be down on the Raiders just because of McDaniels. I mean, if you go through what you go through last year with the coaching staff and the injuries and still manage to make the playoffs, that says something about your team. So I am looking forward to it. But we'll hit a quick break. When we come back, we'll do a little week one action. The dogs might be barking. We'll break it down with John and figure out where the book's at on some of these games. And away we go. And welcome on back to the Football Friday show presented by our friends over at SuperBook Sports, AP and John from SuperBook. And we did a little futures conversation, talked about some big bets that have come in over at the SuperBook. But let's get down to the nitty gritty, my friend. Week one of the NFL season is upon us. Obviously, we got the Thursday night matchup between the Rams and the Bills going on here this week to get us started. But full slate of Sunday action. Obviously, the Broncos fans will have to wait to see their team and Russell Wilson until Monday night against Seattle in Seattle. That'll be a great game. You can follow us on social media at Mile High Sports, and my guy Cody Work at Cody Work NFL will be there in Seattle covering it for us. So if you want some coverage on that front, do yourself a favor and get on after it. But we'll save the Broncos for last. The big thing that kind of I took away when looking at the slate initially is the sheer amount of home underdogs, going on in week one. And obviously there's probably got to be, the books and everyone's going to have to figure out, just who these teams might be. But if I did my math correctly, I counted 10 week one home underdogs. And look, I haven't been betting for like decades on decades, but I know 10's a lot of home underdogs at any given time, let alone for week one. I mean, what do you guys just make of that over there at Superbook with that many underdogs to get us started in week one?
Yeah, home underdogs. That's always an interesting stat. I heard earlier that last year in week one, 12 underdogs covered. So I don't know if that's any sign that that'll continue this year with all those home dogs. But I guess we're going to have to see Sunday.
I saw something on a website doing some research. This is like the most dogs or most home dogs in an opening week since 1978 when the NFL expanded to a 16-game schedule. So like there's never, I guess, is like a historic amount of underdogs to get us started.
Yeah, I don't know if the NFL had any did that on purpose with some of these matchups, putting some bigger teams on the road. I don't know. That Broncos Seahawks game is pretty interesting with Wilson heading back to Seattle.
Yeah, I that is going to be an interesting one for sure. I'm just curious because the one thing about Denver is it's been like sunshine and rainbows, like ever since Russell Wilson came here. Like there's not been a shroud of like negativity, which is fine. But like you bring in Hackett, you bring in Wilson, you have a new ownership group. I'm curious, like what happens if they get punched in the mouth week one? Like I don't think that's going to happen, right? But like it's just one of those things you got to keep in mind.
Yeah, you think panic mode might set in, but Russ has shown before that he can get it done, and now he's got a pretty good team around him.
Yeah, well, that's why, I got a ticket at 12 to 1 for MVP. I'm a big believer in Mr. Russell Wilson, so we'll see how that shakes out. But, okay, let's do a couple of games here, get your opinion from the book's perspective. Let's keep it with the AFC West. Raiders, Chargers. The Chargers, I've said it over and over again. Name me a team outside of my Dallas Cowboys that has underachieved more relative to expectations in the last 15 years than the Los Angeles Chargers, formerly the San Diego Chargers. To not win that game, the win-and-in scenario against the Raiders, I know Herbert's great, still got the same head coach. Yes, they improved big time in the offseason. But talk to me about this matchup. Chargers at home, -3.5, -110 on both sides against the Raiders, total of 52, plus 155 is the price for the Raiders on the money line. The comeback on the Chargers at -175. What does the book think about this matchup?
It's going to be a great game. I mean, that we opened that one at May. In May, the Chargers -4, so it hasn't moved very much. I think every single team in this whole division is very respected. They're going to beat up on each other all year. This is our our highest handle for any game is this one right here, and actually the Raiders have about 3-1 in dollars and about double the amount of tickets on them. That could be because a lot of our wagers come in from here in Las Vegas. There's a lot of big Raiders fans. I know inside the book we're going to be seeing a lot of guys wearing Raiders shoulder pads, and we're going to see some Derek Carr jerseys and Devontae Adams new jerseys. I'm high on both of these teams, so I think this one is almost a coin flip here. It kind of flashback to that Week 18 game last year. That was real fun. All you needed was the field goal, or all you needed was a tie for both teams to get in the playoffs, and that the timeout kind of ruined that. This is a game I'm really looking forward to, and the book is going to need the Chargers.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one for sure. I mean, when you've got these many, these two good teams that have made some improvements in the offseason, I wonder, what is it? It's changed a little bit, but like the common saying is, 3 points, typical home field advantage, for a team and whatnot. So 3.5 kind of following along those lines to a degree. But I don't know, the Chargers probably have one of the worst home field advantages if they even have one at all, and probably almost works well for the Raiders knowing their roots are in Oakland.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I see so many of those games in SoFi. I expected even Thursday to be a lot of Bills fans there for the Rams game. I expect there to be a lot of Raiders fans out there, even all over Southern California and here in Vegas. All you see is Raiders stuff everywhere. I think there'll be a good amount of them out there.
Yeah, no, I could imagine. That is definitely one of the games I will be, smack dab on the couch watching come week 1. That's going to be a fun one. Another one, a good way to get us started on Sunday Night Football. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Dallas Cowboys, and Dallas at home this time. Remember, these two teams opened up the season last year in Tampa. Tampa won that game, but Dallas, I think, surprised a lot of people out of the gate there. And Dallas actually covered the most spreads out of any team in the NFL last season, if I remember correctly. Right around a 75% cover rate is where they were at, if I remember correctly. So you've got Dallas, one of the home dogs, getting 2.5 points against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. And then you got -140 the price of the money line for Tampa, plus 120 the price for Dallas, and then a total of 51. What does the book say about this one?
Yeah, I mean, that game back in May, we opened that one at just the Buccaneers -1.5. Like you mentioned, it's moved to -2.5. And you mentioned that they played it in week 1 last year. And I think this line is exactly where it should be based off of that and how these teams have changed. I mean, how they match up against each other. I mean, I think week 1 last year, if it wasn't for a few missed Zerline field goals, I think that could have went very easily the other way. I think this is a perfect game to start out on Sunday Night Football. It's actually our second most highest handle of any of these games, which is pretty shocking, being a Sunday night game.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of those parlays that are still alive on Sunday, a lot of those might be swaying towards the Buccaneers. It looks like we've got a little more than double the amount of percentage of dollars on the Buccaneers, and then the amount of tickets is almost even, slightly favors to the Buccaneers, but it's almost 50-50.
Interesting. And look, I want to come out and say the Cowboys are my team. They drive me insane. I'm down on them big time this year, but I like them in this game. And, I'll talk about that when I do my own personal picks, but I'm curious, Tampa, Brady kind of having that weird, little lull time off, retiring, unretiring. I think that Dallas is going to play with a little bit of fire out of the gate. McCarthy essentially coaching for his job. The way that they flamed out in the playoffs, they have something to prove being at home. I like Dallas in this game. I like them outright. I'd probably look towards the money line, but I'll definitely take the points as well with the 2.5. So, that's how I feel. Let me ask you about the Cowboys too in a general sense. It feels like, from my perspective, that like you don't have as many of those, this is our year, we're going to win the Super Bowl, Dak Prescott's that guy type of conversation. Have you guys noticed that at the books? Are you still getting, a ton of money coming in on Dallas in respective games or for Super Bowl tickets, or are people pumping the brakes on them a little bit?
Well, of course, Dallas is always a very popular team. They've got a ton of fans. But they're not among the very top of, those Super Bowl bets when it comes to tickets or dollars. But they're always popular. One interesting thing is the division, how close that is at the top with the Eagles and the Cowboys. I know the Eagles have been popular all offseason. And that's almost a coin flip to win that division. We've got the Cowboys at plus 140 and the Eagles at plus 130. Have you gotten any money down on the Cowboys to win the division?
No, because I don't think they will win the division. Philly was my pick to win that division, and it's partially alternative motive. I'm a grumpy old man with the Dallas Cowboys, dude. Like, I'm not wearing the star. I'm down on them. I'm still pissed after how that season ended last year. So I like them this week because I think it's an opportunity to make some money, but I think Philly's the better team in that division.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. The amount of improvements that Philly's made in the offseason with just the draft and some moves. I like the Eagles a lot. I'm definitely high on the Eagles.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. So, okay, let's turn our attention now towards the home team here, where you've got the Denver Broncos, who are on the road, but going back to Seattle. Russell Wilson is for the first time as a member of the opposing team. That will be an interesting matchup, and I've talked about it on my radio show. Like, I'm wondering, will Russ be able to keep his emotions in check? What might that look like, right? But you talked about it a little bit earlier. Denver, now it's 6.5 on the spread. Seattle getting 6.5 points as a home dog here. This opened up right around a field goal. So quite a bit of movement on this game in favor of Denver.
Yeah, definitely. I know you just mentioned Russell Wilson making his return to Seattle, but Geno Smith starting. I was hoping we'd be able to see a Drew Lock revenge game.
What does that say about Drew Lock, though, if he can't beat out Geno Smith for the starting
job? He had a interesting preseason. I saw some pretty good passes and some pretty ugly passes, which is a lot of what you've seen in Denver for the past few years.
Yeah, so I'm curious here. I'm not going to lie, like my gut likes Denver up to the touchdown just because I think Seattle could be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year, and I think that Denver is actually going to be pretty damn good. But, like, I don't like moving with that line. Like, a field goal compared to 6.5 is a pretty big difference in the eye of the sports bettor.
Yeah, definitely. It's the NFL. It's a game that I haven't put a whole lot of attention to from a betting standpoint just yet. I'm sure I will on Monday. But yeah, that one I don't really lean too hard either way. It's going to be a fun game to watch, but it's the NFL. It's very difficult sometimes to cover those spreads, and with such a very new look team on both sides. Could be a sloppy game, or they could show out and show that the Broncos are officially back.
Yeah, I'm interested. They've got the talent. I mean, I think Nathaniel Hackett's going to be a good head coach. I just don't know what Seattle's doing, like, necessarily. Again, let me reiterate. If Geno Smith is your starting quarterback in the year 2022, like, you have got some serious problems. And I think, the fact that Drew Lock couldn't beat him out, I know he had a case of the coronavirus there at the end of training camp in the preseason, which maybe, inhibited his ability to perform late in the QB battle. But it is just one of those situations where, like, man, like, you got Geno Smith of all cats. Like, why weren't they in the market for Garoppolo? Like, Baker Mayfield. Like, it's just, that's the big question mark with me with Seattle is, like, you've got an older head coach in Pete Carroll. Like, why are you running with this group of characters, right? I mean, they're not going to be very good this year.
No, definitely not. But I can tell you that their stadium is definitely going to be rocking on Monday. I don't know whether they're thinking, looking at one of these quarterbacks that could be potentially going in the first couple picks, but that definitely looks like it when they haven't been very active trying to find a guy to replace either of these two guys.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, I mean, those are the three games that I've definitely got my eye on this week. Raiders, Chargers, Tampa, Dallas, and Denver, Seattle. I like that Denver's playing on the Monday night game because I can, like, focus all of my attention on that. And also, hopefully I don't got to chase no losses when it's all said and done. But, that's what the Monday night football game is for sometimes. So, that's going to be interesting. I mean, you got the Giants in Tennessee. I mean, there's really some good matchups here. Kansas City and Arizona. That's going to be a fun one. I know that you're a Bears guy, but what's your take on Minnesota this year and Green Bay?
I like Minnesota. I think if there's anyone that's going to be able to take down Green Bay, it's going to be Minnesota, obviously. I mean, that offense, it seems like year after year, that roster is amongst one of the best in the league on paper. But when you see them on the field, it just doesn't fully connect. I'm a fan of all the guys on the offense. The defense is pretty solid, and I like the move away from Zimmer. I wasn't a big Zimmer guy. I think that could be enough to put him over the top. I definitely think that Minnesota is going to find themselves in the playoffs if it's not taking down Green Bay in the North. I think they'll find a wild card spot.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure to see how that team, kind of plays their season out and whatnot. Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson's like a top 5 pick in everybody's fantasy league these days. Like it's crazy, man. So week 1, my friend, it is finally upon us. I'll be watching the game on my couch. If you're looking for a place to watch it here in Colorado, you can head on up to the Lodge Casino, and you guys are available in, let's do this correctly, Colorado, Arizona, Tennessee, Nevada. And is there one more? Am I missing one more?
I don't think you said New Jersey.
New Jersey, and which is where my whole family's from. So, only natural in that sense. So a handful of states that you guys are available in across the country. And you got to check out the mothership out there in Nevada as well. The SuperBook, the best sports book in the world. There's really not a better way to take in an NFL Sunday or really any sporting event, but nothing like an NFL Sunday over at the mothership there. But for anyone looking to get involved with SuperBook or maybe make a first-time deposit, what are some of the options you've got for people out there?
Yeah, so if you're in Colorado, New Jersey, Arizona, or Tennessee, you can get up to $1,000 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager in the same day. Very easy to do when it's the NFL season. I know there's something on the board that you're going to be interested in, so get up to $1,000 on that first deposit. Sign up, deposit, and wager in the same day. And then don't forget to check out the Odds Boost page. Our guys are always scouring the board to put things on the Odds Boost page, and then even on Wednesdays we're asking for your opinions, what you want to see on the Odds Boost tab. So follow us on social media at SuperBook Sports and send us your suggestions. You might see it on the app next to your username. Nilo, I know you've done it a few times.
Yep. It's a fun way to get involved. And like, that's what I love about you guys over at SuperBook is like, you're not going about it in like the big kind of box consumer type of way of sports betting. It's a very organic approach in each of your markets, right? I know you're working with some great people out here in the Colorado market. I see you bringing in people from Tennessee and these other respective states. So like, that's the thing. If you guys are maybe sick and tired of, the same old sports books out there and you haven't tried out SuperBook, I can't recommend it enough. The lines are great. You're coming from world-class odds makers out there in Nevada, and you're going to get great bonus opportunities and great deposit bonuses along the way. So check out our friends over at SuperBook, and away we go. John, thank you so much for a few minutes of your time. Looking forward to football season. I know you're busy. I'll let you get back to work, but anything you want to leave the listener with before we get out of here?
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. We're gonna have to meet up in Denver, maybe at Blake Street or at the Lodge, and get some games, man. Talk some more ball.
It'll be a good time. So I'm getting my bets in on SuperBook Sports. You should too. We're talking about them. They're the sponsor of Afternoon Drive as well, 4 to 6 p.m. with yours truly alongside of Cody Rourke. So, we're big fans of SuperBook here at the Mile High Sports Studio. So, John, thank you so much. We'll do it again soon, and enjoy week 1.